Hello, YouTube. This is going to be a video on pretty much just the lack of change in our society, complacency, mediocrity, incompetence, a lack of influence from younger people, a lack of youth influence, a lack of diversity in various lifestyles, subcultures, so on and so forth on the higher ups, the upper class, and their consistency, how we need serious social changes and stratification, that the major changes that need to be brought and changes that need to happen. And I talk about circumcision. Well, no wonder we never really begin a large discussion or conversation on this matter, being as many of the people running things are about 100, and no one did talk about circumcision 100 years ago. And of course, that's just a clever way to lead into what I'm saying, but I would like to remind you, the president, not knocking him, but he's 70-something years old. His main challenger was a 60-something-year-old, so really what could have been his main challenger if they didn't screw him out of the primary, was a 60-something-year-old socialist. Socialism is nothing new, by the way. It's an ideology from the latter part of the 19th century that really got its start on the political world stage in Russia in the earlier part of the 20th century. Not very new. And again, I'm not some capitalist asshole. I'm not trying to shit on socialism. I'm just saying it's not that new, and I refuse to believe that socialism is the end-all be-all of anything, or that we can't figure a way to come to some new conclusions and or some new ideals in this country. I think, and people shit on him when she said it, but Alexandria Cortez, she actually said it. We have to come to new conclusions and new answers and new ideals that we don't even already have yet, and invent new things that haven't ever been invented, or something to that degree. She said that, and people shit on her because she wasn't very specific and she didn't offer a new ideal. Well, no shit. That's why she said we need to come to that. If she had a new ideal, she would be saying that ideal, not saying come to that ideal. But that's not a negative. It's not a negative to suggest, gee, maybe a lot of your customs, traditions, ideals, beliefs, and or everything about your system is outdated and needs to be updated, and the system needs to be shaken up. If you look at the Supreme Court, you have 12 to 15 people pretty much running a country of 2 billion, and one of them is 92 years old. The reason you're still arguing about much of the same stuff and you haven't come to any new conclusion or answer to problems like race, gender, or any other inequality, and the same reason that black people and females may not be doing better may have a lot to do with the same reason that white males feel as though they're being unfairly targeted, and a lot of younger white males don't seem to understand what people are talking about. It's because the same fucking people saying a lot of the same shit now are the same fucking people saying what they were saying 50 years ago. And what you said 50 years ago is not going to exactly be what is the case now 50 years later. It's like, what the fuck am I trying to explain this? You need to update shit. We need new people, but more importantly than new people, you need new ideals. And one of the good things about Trump was, say what you want about the man, he was able to come in because he came more from kind of the entertainment side of society, or the upper class, and he wasn't indoctrinated more into the political system. He hadn't went through the ranks, and he was able to come in with his ideals and what he thought shit should be, and say what he wanted. And then once he got elected, he's able to do what he wants, even with all the people opposing him. He's still able to get some of what he wants done. We need more of that. We need more fucking people with new ideals, doing different things, saying what other people are thinking, and we don't have a lot of that. And hell, I should have structured this video. I don't work from a structure. Like, I don't structure my videos. I don't really work from a planned format or script my shit. I should probably script my shit. really down to the last word of what I'm saying, but that can be difficult. But I should have probably worked for more of that. But the point is, you're never going to come to any new conclusion. You're never going to make society better until you let put new people, younger people into positions of power, and those fucking people have to have new ideals. Because I don't care how young they are, if they have the same old ideals, it's going to be the same old shit. And what you're doing right now is you're spinning your wheels because you're doing the same damn thing over and over again with the same consequences and the same results. That is the definition of insanity. And you're doing that. You're doing the same thing and expecting different results. And I bit my tongue on this for the last few weeks because I don't like to really critique Bill Maher that much because I like Bill Maher. I don't agree with everything he says, but I agree with some of what he says. He's a smart individual. But he once again craps on young people. And I would like to remind you, this was the same guy that said much of the same stuff 20 years ago. And it's not as though he was wrong, and it's gotten worse since then. But while he shits on the parents and the children, I would like to remind him the fucking people that create that environment that put many of these ideals in these kids' heads, these kids that don't want certain speakers and so on and so forth, those kids are being taught by professors, many of them from Bill Maher's generation and or maybe somewhat younger, that are people with those ideals. And then they teach that to the kids who then regurgitate this nonsense. And I think it was Bill Maher that said, it's not important to teach children to read. And that's something, not Bill Maher rather, but George Carlin. George Carlin said it's not important to teach children to read. It's important to teach children to question what they read. They should be taught to question everything. And Bill Maher doesn't get that. And he's always taken the side of the school and the teacher and everything else. And he always blames the parents and the kids. And not so much with Bill Maher, but other people will blame the teachers too. And I don't blame either one of the three. The entire education system as it exists now is a bunch of crap that was left over really from the Victorian era where it started. It was largely to give children a limited amount of information so that they would go and work in various factories. And it was only really meant to teach you that much. And that's why it's repeat after me type strategy of teaching. It's they give you they repeat shit like nauseum, and then they expect you to repeat that back to them. So they're telling you what to believe, and then you repeat that. So they're rewarding you for being a drone. They're rewarding you for simply agreeing with them and repeating back what they're told. And they're not teaching you to question things and use a scientific method and question and really look at something. And I think it's also bullshit that Bill Maher, who is 60-some years old, however old he is, who was from the 60s, who has had himself 50-some years in his generation, has had that much to make change in the world, totally blew that. And then the people much younger than him, let's say Generation X, and even my generation, and I'm still in my 20s, but even me, some of the people in their mid to late 20s, those people are us, or we have created the world that we live in. And we have had much more time to make the world a better place. And instead of accepting responsibility or some level of responsibility for our actions and our bad decisions, we put all that shit off on the younger people. It's like that's really the only reason you have children, isn't it? So that every new generation of people can blame the people younger than them. Right? And it's not their fault, it's your fault. And any fuck ups they do, it's also your fault. And I think he said something about, your future Chinese robot overlords. And he is correct. And I don't mean Chinese overlords. I mean they're robots. Because by that point, robots will have taken over China and then us. You ask, how is this possible? I do not know, but given the current idiots we have running shit, I'm sure they'll find a way. iRobot is a possibility with them. Isn't it? iRobot, I think Will Smith played in it. I've never seen the movie. I'm just saying something like that. Anyways, The Matrix. There's one. Yeah, we're fucked. And it's a lot of nonsense. And shit's going nowhere. It's going nowhere fast, except at hell in a handbasket. And once again, they literally at one point had a bridge to nowhere. Remember when they tried to say Bill Maher? Not Bill Maher. I'm sorry. Goddamn. Barack Obama, rather, was a young president when Bill Clinton, I think, was younger than him back in the 90s. Kennedy was around that age or younger in the 60s. Anyways, he's a young president. He was, and they were saying as opposed to John McCain, but yet they try to say Bill Maher, Barack Obama wasn't experienced enough. He hadn't been senator long enough. Oh yes, as opposed to John McCain, who at that point was somewhere in his 60s or 70s, and he was about one stroke away from Sarah Palin at that time getting the fucking job and getting her finger on the button. And this was a woman who couldn't name a single magazine she had read, had something to do with a fucking or book she had read or anything else, had something to do with a bridge to nowhere, and thought she could see Russia from her house. She was that close to being fucking president. And the feminists will love it just because she's a female, so bravo. And I want to tell you something else about, while we're on the feminist issue, you want identity politics, you want Hillary Clinton 2.0, or rather that campaign strategy, you want to do the same thing over again. So who are you going to run out? Kamala Harris, right? Because, right, you need a female, you need someone of color. Well, okay, and her first go-to is what? Let's call Joe Biden, the former vice president, who you have no reason to think this about, a fucking racist without any fucking real proof of that. Okay, and they were talking about something to do with buses. I do not know the subject. Maybe I stand corrected on that one. But they say this, and let me tell you something about her. I think from my understanding, she's a former prosecutor. I could be wrong about that, but I do know she worked in social services. And she took and targeted poor families and took kids away from their parents. I guarantee you, I can almost guarantee you, she targeted largely black and brown or a black African American Latino community probably, and poor people in general, to take their kids away from them because they were missing school. As opposed to the rich person whose kid might have played hooky for the last week, and it doesn't matter because they can afford to do that. They can homeschool them anywhere, anything else they want. And just like we saw with those college admission scams a few months back and whatever, and that chick from Full House was involved in it. Just like with that, they can just buy out a college degree. They can buy their way college kids that plays in college of their choosing. So that don't matter to them, right? It's the poor people you have to target because they missed school. And this is the fucking person you want to put in the damn White House. Oh yes, she's a real woman of the people. I mean, what a bunch of shit, man. And I've not said a lot about her because I don't need the misogyny claims and all that crap, racism, whatever else. She is not a fucking person you want to run, and she's not a fucking person that could win. But certainly if you're a real liberal, you do not want her to be the fucking candidate, and she won't win. But I'm not saying anything about that because I don't want to get into the, well, you're a misogynist shit. I don't feel like going down that road. But no, she's not going to win. This is Hillary Clinton all over again. The same cold, robotic, bureaucratic, repeat the same crap, one-dimensional shit that we've been doing since, whenever. Everything wrong with the Democratic Party, why you can't get the shit up off the ground, why you're not going anywhere. The reason why you're not going anywhere, the reason why Trump will probably win again. And if that is the alternative you provide us with, I would rather Trump win again, and he will. Just like I told you would the last time, just like I've been telling you ever since like 2012, you're going to start losing back then. And ever since then, you have been losing. So, I mean, that's the reality of it. You need change, you need progress, you need new ideals, you need new blood, new people, new younger people, you need new ideals. Vote for something new. But the people don't want to do that because they've been bought off. They have been bought off, especially the younger generation with their gadgets and the fucking iPhones and your football games and this bullshit and that bullshit. And these horrible talk shows like Wendy Williams and all this other garbage they put on TV. You're more focused on that than you are the fact that 12 to 15 people, one of them is a 92-year-old, is running your Supreme Court. And meanwhile, you have people like Kavanaugh, 50-year-old, arguing with another 50-year-old. There was a part of a recovery memory syndrome, by the way. That's just proven science. They helped put a lot of Satanists in prison in the 80s for shit they didn't do, including people like me, as well as Christians being accused of that. So it's like a modern witch hunt at one point. But anyways, they did this. And it's a 50-year-old arguing with a 50-year-old about shit that happened 30-something years ago. Something wrong he might have done, probably did not do 30-something fucking years ago. And the end result was, after spending no telling how much money on FBI investigations into this, and wasting everyone's time. The guy probably, we come to the conclusion he's probably innocent, and he's allowed in the Supreme Court anyways. And again, that's your fucking thing that takes precedence over poverty and war and everything else. And meanwhile, the people stupid and drunk on bread and circuses, they're watching this shit and they're watching that shit. And they're not too busy caring about that in the afternoon football game or the football game on Saturday night and the wrestling show and the UFC show and the boxing show and all this other garbage. And they're too worried about that to worry about politics or philosophy, sociology, or anything reasonable or real or that is important in the world. You don't care about that. You worry too much about this garbage. And that's where your country stands. And meanwhile, your president, like I said, is a 70-something-year-old man who is fucking probably more original and says more of what a lot of fucking people my age think than, goddamn it, people younger than him. Because it's a fucking played out bullshit system, and you have rich people running things, first, second, third generation rich people, in many cases born well over half a century ago, probably started getting their job half a century ago. America's native to the country, that is to say they're not immigrants. Straight people, cisgender people, I don't think gender matters that much at this point, but let's say it does. They're fucking, in many cases, male, some cases female, and they're white people. And that's the fucking people that run everything. And it's the same fucking people that were running shit 50 years ago, doing the same shit. And then when the country's fucked and you don't understand why, it's because you keep doing the same damn thing over and over again. And not only that, you keep voting the same fucking people to do it. And in the case of the Supreme Court, they're not even open to fucking be elected or unelected or re-elected or anything else. And the only damn way they can fucking be kicked out of office pretty much is they have to either step down or die. And a lot of them die on the job. And Justice Scalia, by the way, who was supposed to be the oldest, or rather the most conservative member of the Supreme Court, was also one of the oldest. So I can certainly see why, when you consider the fact he's about 97 years old, yeah, he's going to be more conservative. That's where that gets you if you're a liberal. That's where it takes liberalism. It makes it impossible. Because you have fucking people who were liberal maybe 97 years ago. So you need new ideals, new people with new ideals, and you don't have that. That is a problem. But that is a problem. P666.